Hey, AP Physics students and parents. So, as we begin this year, I want you to recognize that you will be solving lots of problems from the textbook. And I've chosen a technique for assigning problems that may be a little confusing to you. And so I want to make sure you understand how to solve these problems. I'm choosing to call this less is more. So instead of, since we cover in AP Physics the textbook so very quickly, instead of assigning a lot of problems from the textbook, each night I would like to assign one or at most two problems. Well, here's what that means. To do your homework carefully, your part of the bargain, instead of having to solve a lot of textbook problems, is to solve every one of those very carefully and showing a lot of steps. So let me just give you an example. You will find assignments, for instance, T 2.4. You would list that at the top, T 2.4. Probably has two questions. I would like each problem to have its own side of the piece of paper. So what I mean is, do not try to put both problems on the same side of the piece of paper. Turn it over for the next one. So the next one will be over there, first one's here. Now on this, I want you to show as many steps as you can, drawing diagrams. All right, so let's just take a quick look at some hints about problems like this. As you look at it, it's T 2.4, number 39, and you will find this on page 53 of your textbook. So as we open up the textbook to page 53, so you will find it right here, and I know you can't see this very well, but if you look at number 39, it tells you some information. So first of all, it says there's a resource. If you go to the www.wiley.com college/Cutnell, you will find help at solving the problem. So there's one good way to get some assistance to solving the problem. Here's another way to get some assistance. On almost every problem that I give you, I will give you some YouTube hints about how to start it. So, of course, it's best if you could solve it yourself without getting any of these hints, but you will have that available almost all the time. So as you read this question over carefully, remember, there are only one or two per night, so that means each one is extremely important, and you don't want to skip any of these because I've chosen them very carefully. So, for instance, if you look at this one, and again, this is the beginning of the year, you haven't seen all the features, but one thing I like to do when I look at this is make some notes. If I were solving it, I would say, okay, so this is a ski jump circumstance, and it talks about at landing. So I'm going to make a point here. You're going to use most of a piece of paper. So you write big, use lots of showing of your steps. Diagrams are very important. So at landing, then what we're going to find is that we have a vector. There is a v0x. We like to label these things. Then at this point, there is a v subscript y, and then you get a total velocity vector right there. That is 43 degrees downward, and 23.0 meters per second. So these are pieces of information that we've been given in the problem. So then I would show other steps if I were solving this. I would show a little of the trigonometry, and you would write cosine of 43 degrees. Since cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, you write v0x over 23.0 meters per second. So you're showing the step. Show me as many steps as you can. So then you might show the solving of this that you get v0x equals 16.82 meters per second. And then you should use formulas from our formula sheet from what we learned. One of the formulas is that x, which is the distance horizontally, is v0x times t. Then you would even show your solving of putting numbers in here. 51.0 meters equals 16.82 from our previous circumstance, meters per second, times t. You'd even show the solving of this, and that you get t equals 3.03 seconds. So this would continue. You would show me various different steps, and then at the very end, you would get a velocity of 21.8 meters per second, and you would show how you got that, and you would even show that you get an angle of 40 degrees, and that's all good. These are the answers to the problem. Okay, well, how are you going to know what the answers to the problem are? Most of these are in the back of the book. I assign primarily odd questions whose answers are in the back of the book. So it's not the answer that is crucial. It's showing all the steps as you see to get the answer. So when I'm correcting these, here's what I'll do. On these problems will be worth 3 points. So I will give so if this was solved right with the right answer, you would get a 3 out of 3 on this assignment. Okay? So what are you going to get on this assignment if you just write down the answer? You will get 0 out of 3. If you try the problem and make some errors on the way, I will grade based on how much work you showed, where your error is. Let's say you did many things right, but you made a couple of errors at the end. Very likely you could get something like 2.5 out of 3, maybe even 2.8 out of 3, or certainly 2 out of 3. And this is the way these are graded. So take a look here. I would expect the entire piece of paper, this entire side, to be filled with showing your work. And then you can get credit for these. So remember, resources here would be you can come in for extra help, and that would be great. I will have YouTube hints about how to solve these. Remember that the textbook also shows example problems from the book. Put all these together, and these are some of your strategies for solving these problems on the text assignments. Thanks.